Hello and welcome to another edition of Community Forum. My name is Joseph Feaster, I'm the host of the program, and today we're going to have an opportunity to learn more about our library, how you can find out what programs exist, how you can support the library. And today I have some exciting guests here who will give you all the information that you need on that particular subject, and let me introduce them to the program now. So, to my far right is Fred Yatanis, and Fred is a board member of the Support Our Library Association, or SOLA. We have Samada Jiko, who is the literacy director at the library. We have El Presidente, Dory Frankel, who is the president of SOLA. And we have immediately next to me is Patricia Basler, the library director, to tell us about the program. So I'm going to start with you, though, Doria, because I always want to start at the top, and I want to have our viewing audience know what the Support Our Library Association is, how it got started, and why. So could you, inform us?
I can, and thank you, Joseph, for having us all here today. SOLA began 2.5 years ago at the recommendation of Ms. Basler, our library director, at the time when they were beginning the process and application for a library expansion grant. That is still in the works. It's been funded by town meeting at a 50-50 split with a library grant, hopefully which will be given at some point in the very near future, which Pat will talk about later. One of the requirements or recommendations of that committee was that do you have a nonprofit fundraising group involved? And the answer at that point was no. So Pat put on her thinking cap, as she always does, and she called together a bunch of people who had been supporters of the library in town, people who worked in conversation and other programs at the library, and she brought us all together. And she said, well, we need to form a nonprofit. There had, at that point, I said, well, I know how to do that. I'm a paralegal by profession and had done a number of 501c3 applications in my day.
I know why she was always beating up on me.
Yeah, okay.
Right, now I didn't know that fact. Let me write that one down. Go ahead, Dory.
So I drew up bylaws. I drew up articles of association, articles of organization, got those filed, got this filed, got the tax number. Did the 1023 application, and within 8 weeks, we had our 501c3.
That's amazing, because that's not how quickly
the
process is.
That wasn't the end of my 501c3s after that success story. But anyway, that's how we began forming. And then our goal was to start to fundraise. And so we had a very limited base of people that we are working with. And still to this day, we have a very small group of us who are the basis of board members of SOLA. That's one of the reasons why I approached you to do this show. We are looking for more people within the town to come and join us and to help us to raise some funds to go over programs. Now, what's our purpose? Our purpose is to support those library programs that are in existence now that don't have complete funding within our budget process. As you know, we've lost some funding of various programs in various departments over the course of the last number of years through the sessions that we've gone through and such. So there's not as much as there used to be, and in order to expand, you need to have some kind of fundraising behind you, and hence that's what SOLA's done.
Well, let me just you talk about fundraising, and I'm always one who has the viewpoint, you always follow the dollars, and certainly I know my good friend Fred Yatanis has, and because of his theatrical acumen, has been the one who has been the principal fundraising event for SOLA, has been the play. So Fred, can you tell us about how you came up with that idea, why you became a member of SOLA,
Sure.
board member, and I know that there have been 2 editions of the play, so why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, to begin with, Joe, it wasn't my idea. Okay?
I wouldn't even ask whose idea it was. Go ahead.
You know whose idea it was. It's Dory. And actually, I've said this on many times, having been on the community forum a number of times, I've said essentially the same thing. That
And she asked you, right? She asked you to do it?
Of course.
Okay. Of course.
And nobody says no to Dory. That's the whole thing. So it starts with that. And well, frankly, I can go back a little further. Dory and I have been friends for, decades now, actually.
Decades.
Yeah, and besides that, I've been a member, of course, of the Stoughton Library with a card, and have borrowed books from time to time, and have really been happy with my experience there. However, one of the things I discovered was I really didn't know a lot about what the library does.
Right.
I just figured from the time I was a kid, you go to the library, you borrow a book, and then you leave, and that's it. But there's so much more that the library does, which we'll have a chance to talk about in a few minutes. So Dory, who had also done a 501(c) for the Food Pantry Foundation of Stoughton, another involvement that we're all involved with here in the town, which raises money for food for the people in need. And essentially, when she approached me on this idea, raising money for the library, and said, look, I know you have a lot of theatrical experience, would you be interested in directing a play? And I said, well, tell me a little bit more about it. And she said, well, what I thought we would do would be something like a murder mystery where we could get prominent citizens, people that are well known in the town, people who would attract an audience to as they performed, and we could raise some significant money like that. What do you think? So
and certainly when they want to find out the one that's going to be killed, they want to find out which town person that's going to be.
So we actually talked about it. We sort of conspired. It turned out to be a very, very good play, and so we went, okay, great, I'll do it. So then, matter of fact, I think I said I'd do it right from the beginning, before I even thought more about it. And then Dory gave me the play, I read it, I said, this is really going to be a lot of fun. Who do you have in mind? And of course, she already has in mind all the characters with prominent citizens around town. And she told me who she had in mind. I said, this is going to be fantastic. Well, as it turned out, we cast it. Everybody pretty much said yes. And then we gave them the script, and we only gave them their portions of the script that they had to know, because it really, in theater, people typically end up internalizing their lines. I mean, we could call it memorizing, but essentially they have to internalize their lines, so when they perform, you don't have a script in front of you.
Right.
Well, knowing that the people that we had involved in the play were non-actors, so to speak, although they're in politics, so they actually...
They're characters, just not actors.
Truly. So essentially we knew that they would need to have it, so we call it a read play, in which case they'd have their scripts in front of them, and therefore they could deliver their lines. And from there, we gave them a lot of latitude and so forth. So essentially, we started, we cast it. They all said yes. We started, we only have basically 2 weeks of rehearsal. We end up with about 5 rehearsals, which when you think about the level of the performance, it really isn't a lot of rehearsal time. So essentially, I recruited Jan Jones from Little Theater to assist me in the direction of it. So she and I really conspired to do costumes and direction. Then we had to talk about venues and so forth. And Dory had the Great Hall at Town Hall, which had never been done before, done. And so she basically, because again, nobody.
Well, she got it from me.
Well, of course she did.
That's right. He was town manager at the time. Yes.
So I mean, these are.
Well, you just said no one can say no to Dory.
That's exactly right.
I just wanted to add my comment to that runs true throughout the town.
Precisely.
With the liquor license, which the selectmen gave. I have to give credit to the selectmen.
Which was really a first.
Yes.
So essentially putting all that together, Dory's behind the scenes work, her casting it with all the people that, again, nobody says no to Dory. So sure, I'll do it, Dory. And then they had no idea what they were in for. And of course, it turned out to be hugely successful. It was a sellout the first year. We raised a little over $3,000, I think, the first year. And then we went, hey, we're going to do this again. And of course, that works out great because of all of the funding that we were able to help the library with. The following year, we did it again, only we expanded the temple approached us actually and said, we'd like you to do it at the temple. Would you be interested? Dory and I talked, we went up, we looked at it. We said, okay, what are the possibilities? What nights can we do it? And, what night can we do it? And so forth. And of course, we had to be sensitive to their Sabbath and so forth. So we dealt with all of those things and again, cast it with another cast, with the exception of Pat, as Lotta Books, L-O-T-T-A, Books, Lotta Books. She is the, the librarian in this play, as she had been for the last couple of years. So we cast it again, hugely successful, and we've raised over $6,000, almost $6,500. So between the 2 years, we've raised almost $10,000 for library programs.
We're going to come back to that particular point, and also, Dory, we want to come back to how people can get more involved. But Pat and Samadad, I'll get it right before the end of the show. I'm certain of that. Are talking about different things. Pat, I'd like to start with you from the overview, because one of the things when I was the interim town manager, I would go back into history, and I want to start with our town adopted very early on the need for having a library. And I always like folks to be able to put things in context and historical perspective. So it was early on determined that Stoughton was going to have his library. They set up a library trustees, which I found that their library trustees run what goes on at the library. The town doesn't have a say. The selectmen don't have a say except in some small matters, but it's really the library trustees. Could you give a little bit of history before we go into the programming?
Sure. I wish I had David Lambert here, because he
is. Yes, David is a historian. But
he's the historian.
Yes.
So the way libraries in New England formed in the late 1800s was wealthy people would start a club, basically. And so they'd all chip in dues every year, and they'd hire somebody, or somebody would volunteer that was part of the club, and they would buy the books, and then only they could share them. So it was a very sort of elite, educated club, and only the people who already knew how to read participated. And then in the early 1900s, when we were sort of going through the golden age, we had somebody like Andrew Carnegie was very influential in New England, because he challenged all the towns, basically in New England, to build their own library. He would give them, I think, $1,000 to build the building, but they would have to open it to the public, and everything, the town would have to take some financial responsibility for it. So when you travel around the country now, the rest of the country has county libraries, but New England has, a lot of them have original Carnegie building libraries that were just brick buildings, very similar to our Lucius Clapp building, which is our historical society now. But that was not a Carnegie building. But anyway, they started out as wealthy people's clubs, and they have become really the library for the masses. Everybody gets, it's the great equalizer. You can go to a library, you can get books, you can get music, videos, CDs, whatever you need, material things, but you can also get support to learn a language, get your citizenship, figure out what your next educational step will be, just all sorts of other support services as well.
Well, why don't you talk about, you or Smadar, we'll talk about these specific programs which you have at Stoughton Public Library.
Sure. Well, one of the big things, I'm sorry we don't have Christine Iacobucci here today. She runs the outreach work at the library, and we have a poster over there to the right of Fred, and that I think there's only 2 or 3 other towns in Massachusetts that actually offer this service, and she brings reading material to homebound patrons. So senior citizens who can't drive anymore, somebody who's laid up with surgery and can't get out, she will bring these materials to them every other week. She visits all the senior center. She goes to all the long-term care facilities and all the senior housing complexes in town. So it's just a great service, and we have a lot of people in town who are trying to maintain living in their household until they, as long as possible, and this is another friendly visit that you can tie into their daily system, so it's kind of nice. I'd like Smadar to talk a little bit about the literacy program, because that's been in place for 16 years now. And Stoughton and the surrounding area has a very large population of immigrants who need to learn English as a second language so that they can become good participants and citizens of our community. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
As Pat said, the program has been in place for the past 16 years, and it has grown quite a bit, especially since I've been there in the last 8 years. And the program is basically a one-to-one tutoring program, a volunteer program. So we take in anyone who comes in and would like to learn to speak English, would like to get their citizenship, and would like to be more involved in their children's school, any of those things, and we pair them with a volunteer. So we train volunteers. They have to go through 18 hours of training. Once those volunteers are trained, we match them with a student. And we expect that they meet for about 2 hours a week for a year. That has been extremely successful. We have a lot of success stories of students who got jobs, who started their own businesses, who went back to school. The other part of our program, besides just the English, is we also have a basic literacy program, which is for adults who cannot read and write at a proficient level. So we also help adults who are coming in with issues of literacy, whether it's reading, writing, math, or computer literacy.
I had the personal pleasure, I think on 2 occasions, to come and speak at their graduation ceremony, and it's so rewarding to watch them, how exuberant they are and how pleased they are, and that they have been able to take advantage of this. But again, this is promotion time as well, promotional time, so I want you to be able to tell how can a person who wishes to be one of the volunteers, I've seen the ads in the Penny Saver for when you want to do that, and secondly, how do you recruit the persons who are going to participate? How many can you have in the program? Why don't you be a little more deliberative in discussing that?
I would love to. As you can imagine, the students come word of mouth. We do not advertise for students. We don't have to. They hear it from their families, from their friends, and many of them, when they just get to Stoughton, their families or friends will say to them, one of your first stop needs to be at the library. You need to get yourself a tutor. So we don't advertise for that. However, we never have enough volunteers to help all the students that we have. So we run 4 trainings a year.
What does a volunteer have to have by credential-wise in order to do that?
A volunteer has to have a high school diploma, be over 18 years old, and be sensitive to the struggles of an adult learner. We give all the tools during our training. One of the important things about our program, which is very different for many adults from other programs they've been in, is that we are learner-centered. So our curriculum is based on what the student wants to learn. We do not have a curriculum. We're not a school. So when a student comes in and says, I have a heart problem, I can't speak English, I need to be able to speak to a doctor, that's the language that they will learn. So the volunteers, once they finish the training, and our next orientation, just to plug it here, is in September 16th at 6 o'clock. And you can find out more information there.
And that'll be at the library?
That will be at the library in the Wales French Room. And I can't even explain, and I think Dory can probably explain because she also happens to be a tutor amongst all the other great things she does in town. The reward and the feeling of satisfaction that the tutors get. The students obviously are extremely grateful and make great strides and become citizens, and they vote and they become part of the process, but it's always hard for me to quantify the feeling that an adult gets from helping another adult. And I think in the trainings I try to convey that, but I don't think anyone gets it until they actually get out and do the work.
Dory, this is another program. This is one of the programs, and we'll, to the extent that we have the time to talk about more of the programs that are offered at the library. this is one of the programs that SOLA supports. And in order to do that, you need, because there is quite a bit of involvement that SOLA has, and as Fred pointed out with the fundraising aspects, let me help you build your board for SOLA. So talk about how many persons on the board, what you perceive as some of the needs, some of the skill sets that you would be looking for from persons who would want to serve on your board. And then Fred, be ready to talk about why you're there. I know you do the theatrical piece, but there's more than that, because I know you well enough to know there's more, and I'd like you to talk about why you're a board member. So, Dory?
Well, first what I want to tell everybody is that on July 1st, which is a Tuesday night, we are having an open meeting for the public to come in the Wales French Room, 7:30 p.m. We're having an open meeting for people to come, learn more about us, and become a part of helping us to grow programs and services for adults and children that the library supports. That's where we need people. And why do we need people? Because we have bylaws that state you can only be treasurer for 3 years, you can, be on the board for, in the same capacity for, 2 years in this position or whatever. Those are all required by law. So we need to mix it up. We want to be able to bring in some more young people as well. I don't consider myself a young person any longer.
No?
No, I mean, I'm not, I'm not as old as the fabulous Mel, but, so we'll give a little plug to him too, because I always used to like to do that when I hosted as well. But we want to get more people involved so that we can make sure that these programs and services that are supported by SOLA and by the library get out there to as many people as can take advantage of them. That's the point of all this, is that the library doesn't just lend books, CDs, and whatever. You can now get them on a Kindle. How many people know that you can download books right to your Kindle from the library, keep them for 2 weeks. You better read them in 2 weeks, because after 2 weeks they disappear off your Kindle. But you can do that. That's one of the things. Getting the word out about different summer reading program that's out there for 2 different age groups of children that encourages kids to continue to read over the summer. Those are the kinds of things that we spend our money on supporting because and I tell my conversation class, I've taken over somebody's conversation class for the summer while they're away. And I tell them that the best way that you can continue to learn is by reading. Whether you're reading just a newspaper, or you're reading a magazine, or you're helping your child learn to read a book, or you're reading a story to your toddler at that level. Those are what makes you continue to grow as a person and grow in the whole education field.
How many board members do you have now?
We currently have 6.
And your bylaws allow you to have?
Our bylaws do not have a top number.
All right, so.
But not only do we need board members, we need volunteers to help produce some of the fundraising events that we have. And I've solicited volunteers through friends of mine and such. But I want to get more people in the town involved with helping with the fundraisers, because that's how the library itself can be able to generate more programs outside of their budget constraints.
And if someone in our viewing audience is you've just excited them to the point that they just can't wait, and they're sitting there with pen and pencil waiting to find out how they get in contact with you, what should they do?
I know we have an information screen that
you can tell them that. They want to hear it from your lips to their ears.
Well, they can call me. 341-0856.
781?
781-341-0856. They can call me. They could stop by the library and they can pick up some information on SOLA there. Our address that we use for our business is also the library's address, 84 Park Street. And we do have a Gmail account. It is solastoughton@gmail.com.
Okay.
It's gmail.com.
Okay, and we will definitely
Okay,
keep.
that was,
yes,
it was a little,
yes. Oh, it said .org over there?
Yeah, it did.
Okay, well, that's
But
all right.
that's okay.
Well, see, that's why I wanted
All
to
right,
make
so
sure
call me.
that they got
I'm
it
in the
right
phone
from you.
book too.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
in
yeah.
the phone book.
Oh, yeah. Well, all you have to do is yell out and say, I'm looking for Dory, and someone will direct you to everyone in town knows it. But Fred, let's talk about you. I mean, from
there it is.
from
Thank
the
you.
family in Stoughton, in terms of the family involvement, going back to your dad your late dad, in terms of being a selectman here in town and involved in the real estate. You in real estate, you involved with the chamber. You involved with my purchase of my home when I came here to Stoughton, being a friend, but more importantly, your service. That's what you and Nadine both do. But in terms of your service community, and particularly here, with all the things, the myriad of things that you are doing, why this particular activity, serving on the board of SOLA?
I think that the easy answer is because of Dory,
Okay.
which is true. I mean, because Dory's always committed. She's been the consummate volunteer. Nobody does more for the community of Stoughton, in my opinion, than Dory Frankel, and she does it quietly. Most people have no idea. And when she came to me about the forming the 501(c) with SOLA, and then knowing, what the town's mission has been, including the master planning committee now working towards really bringing the good word of Stoughton out to the community, because too often Stoughton gets a bad rap. And having been born here, raised here, went to the Stoughton schools, and live here in Stoughton, and being a third-generation Stoughtonite, I take the responsibility very seriously, which is why Nadine and I are involved in so many volunteer organizations, knowing that there are people in need, and we get a lot of satisfaction out of doing just that, Joe. When Dory came to me about the library, and then really uncovered the mystery of the library, which I frankly didn't know about. So what part of our mission is here today, actually, which is going to be part of a campaign, is literally to bring the good word of what really goes on at the library out to the community, because most of them don't have any idea. So all of those things really came about really driving me to do exactly what I'm doing. But it was Dory as the instigator, and then all of the wonderful work that the library does that I had no idea about that really got us involved. So it's really all of those things, and it's about bringing the good word to what Stoughton is really all about. Too often we don't hear the good news. This is part of the good news.
And let me talk to the viewing audience. I'm going to come to you in a moment, Patricia, because what I wanted to, just to underscore what Fred Yatanis has said. When you want to get a job done, you usually go to busy folks. Always you're out there, you're saying, I have this to do, that to do, I don't have time to volunteer. What I want to impart to the viewing audience is that if you give a little bit of time, if a bunch of us give a little bit of time, there'll be an opportunity for us to get more done in this town. So I ask you to really, look at your own lifestyle, determine, can you give a little bit of time on some activity, and being that I have SOLA in the library here today, I would ask on Dory's behalf and on Fred's behalf that you give them some support, because ultimately, as you're going to be hearing more on, they are dealing with from the little ones all the way to the seniors in terms of the activities that the library has. So I'm going to ask you to get off the couch, get off the chair, give Dory a call, email her, and I hope that when I run into her at town meeting or someplace in the stores, that she will tell me that as a result of this program, there were some of you who decided to come and volunteer with SOLA. And Pat, you must have known I was coming a segue to you, because I want you to talk about, out of the work that SOLA does, out of the work in terms of your own grants personship, you have been able to get funding for all types of programs that exist at the library. So why don't we go a little bit more? I know we talked about the adult literacy program, is a homework program. There are a number of programs you have, so I'm going to give you the stage. You have it.
Well, there's many things that SOLA supports. One concrete example, if you go into the library now, you'll see right next to the circulation desk, there's a self-checkout. I got a great picture the other day of a 9-year-old girl who had 4 books. She didn't want to wait in line, and she just took out her card, scanned it, and scanned the books, and got the receipt and was ready to walk out. And I said, you do that really well. And she said, well, my mother doesn't let me do it at the grocery store. So but I can do it here. So, it's a nice experience for them to get that. Technology is great, so we're promoting technology. We applied for a grant last year called Science is Everywhere, and it's specifically for 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. And the idea is to promote more STEM related programming, so science, technology, engineering, and math. And the goal is to offer a monthly program for 2 hours where the children will actually have a hands-on experience for, they are building a solar car this Friday. The Museum of Science came down and did a training on windmills and how they work and how the technology works and airflow. It was fascinating. They've done dig-it programs where they uncover fossils. We had somebody from Blue Hills come down, and she did she bought 2 owls, a screech owl in a barn and a great white snowy. And they were live, but then at the end of the program, the kids were all handed an owl pellet, given rubber gloves, tweezers, goggles, magnifying glasses, and they dissected it. Those are the kinds of programs teachers don't have the time to do in school anymore. I mean, it's a 2-hour program. That whole concept of hands-on for 2 hours. And we've had over 90 kids in the 8 months that we've done this participate, and we can only take 20 a class, but they love it. There's like waiting lists for that. So I'm hoping with SOLA we can continue. The state will give us grant money as seed money to start a program, but then we have to find the funds to continue it. And this is so successful that we really are hoping we can continue to do STEM-related programs throughout the course of the next year and the following year. We applied for a grant this year for, which I haven't heard from yet, but it's called STEAM, Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Math. And that's actually for, I think, 1st through 3rd graders. So the state, the government, at the federal level, and all the way down to the educational level in the states are trying to promote early exposure to STEM-related activities so that we can get more kids involved in science at an early age, so that we don't have to be desperate for these kinds of people to fill some of our jobs. The Homework Center was a great example of a grant that we got about 8 years ago. It was a 2-year grant called Teens and Tweens, and it was to figure out what programming we can do to get teens to come into the library. Because basically we get parents with very young kids. They come to story hour, they come for socialization, so mothers and fathers can talk to other parents when they're home alone with their young kids. And then we lose them during the teen years, and then they come back when they have their own kids, or they'll come back if they lost a job and they need to use the computers to apply online, those kinds of things. So the grant was specifically to find out how we can promote more programs that would attract teens. One of the outcomes of that was we have a full-time young adult librarian. A lot of the towns around us don't have that. She does programming just for teenagers, 12 to 18-year-olds. They have a teen advisory board. They meet quite regularly, and they plan activities. They tell us what they want to do. But the big thing out of that grant was the kids wanted a regular meeting place to do homework. And they didn't want it to be at the schools, because if you stay after school to do homework, you're stigmatized because, oh, you need help. But so we tried to create a program every Monday night from 6 to 8. We've been doing it for 6 years now. And it's run by volunteer tutors from the High School Honor Society, Stonehill College education students, and adults who are interested in helping. And actually, the fabulous Mel is very good, it turns out, in math.
Hey,
he was a dentist, yes. So so we have other adults that occasionally help as well. The kids come because, well, number one, they get pizza at 7:30, so it's a free dinner. They get a slice of pizza and a couple cookies. To me, that's not a big deal, but to them...
Well, that's why I came to the program when you invited me.
Oh, we had a good dinner when you came. But I have to give a shout out to Papa John's, who gives us a huge discount on pizza every night, and Olive Garden, who always does our annual end of the year event.
Yes.
But after the 2 years, I talked to the superintendent of schools and said, can you look at your data? These are the kids who attended. Did you see an improvement in their grades? They're mostly middle school and early high school. They saw such a dramatic improvement in, like F's and C's up to A's and B's, that the schools now fund paying for the 3 teachers that run the program.
Excellent.
So it was supported by the grant for 2 years. Now we're 6 years into it, and it's still going strong. The superintendent actually tried. We discussed having it run out of the school, in the high school after like one night after school. But when I surveyed the kids, they said they wouldn't go, and that's because this is a social activity where they're making the choice to go and do it, and they're with their peers. And so there's no stigma attached to it. And it's been hugely successful. Cohasset followed our example. They loved the idea, and they did a model after it.
Well, it was quite interesting when I did attend the program. Once again, the graduation ceremony or a moving on ceremony. I'm not sure exactly how you described it, but nonetheless, there had to be at least 60 to 80 students in there. If I remember, there were at least 3 rows of long
packed.
tables of about 20 or 30 folks. And it seemed like they were able to interface and interact with each other. It seemed like they enjoyed being there.
Yeah.
And I guess that's part of the process. I know that this isn't a direct, certainly, Dory, go ahead.
Sometimes, and in some of the cases, those children come to the homework center because they give pizza at the end.
Yeah.
All right, so let's not forget that there are many kids in this town who aren't getting enough nourishment at home. And I know that for a fact because Mel, who does tutor there, listened to some child speaking to his father on the phone after homework center one night, and he said, "Dad, there wasn't any pizza today." Which meant that child didn't have dinner. So let's not forget it's another reason why Fred and I both sit on the food pantry.
Well, I was just going to say that's,
Foundation
you know,
board.
I was going to say that's
They're
another.
tied in.
That's
But
right.
that kid also got superb help with his homework. So he's getting his homework done, even if he's only there to get the pizza. He's still doing better in school because he's come to the homework center.
Well, you know, and I'm sure the statistics would bear that out
Yeah.
for a whole host of them, Dory, that
Yeah.
it provides nurturing, it provides the educational component, it
Yes.
it teaches them interpersonal relationships. There's a lot of things that are going on which may not be
Absolutely.
tracked, and we're getting the statistics on, but I'm certain that all of that is happening. One of the things I want to say, because while you're getting these grants, you're getting the unrestricted dollars from SOLA, and I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that yes, you are funded by the town.
Mm-hmm.
You do receive monies from the states. You do receive grants, but there are still the programs that are necessary through a SOLA in order to support you, because there are some programs that are not funded by any of those other places, and it's so important. So I don't want the viewing audience to think that, oh, everything is fine, there's sufficient funding, they're getting it from here, there, and everywhere. Without the dollars that are coming in from SOLAR and the contributions and the volunteering, there would not be an ability. And let me also emphasize, folks, these folks aren't getting paid. Other than the staff that are here, both Pat and Smadar, they are, Dory and Fred are volunteering, as are the other members of the board. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and so again, there are a need of dollars and people. I always say follow the dollars, but there's a need for both dollars and people for you to do that. Yeah. Fred, I've never known you to be quiet in any setting that we have been in, so I want to be able to come back to you on any point that you would want to know in terms of bring out. And Smadar, since I've emasculated your name throughout the program, I certainly want to give you as much opportunity for you to express what you would like to. And then I want to come back to you, Patricia, to talk about the whole issue around funding of a new library. I want to get that on the table as well when we do that. So Fred, I'm going to start with you.
Okay. Among the things that I was not aware of, and Dory actually alluded to it earlier tonight, or today, that the Kindle. I have a Kindle. As a matter of fact, I'm on my 4th Kindle. I mean, I've gone through them generationally now. And the beauty of being able to download from the Stoughton Library, the alternative is if you download them in typically your Kindle, you're going to be paying $9.99 for the book or $12.99 depending on when it came out and so forth. But think about that for a second. The cost to do it from the Stoughton Library is $0. You pay no money to get it done, and you have it for 2 weeks, read your novel, and then basically off to the next one. It's an unbelievable value. Think about that. You pay $0 for it, whereas if you choose to go through one of the sources that are out there to download books, it'll cost you $10. $10 versus $0. The other thing that I love about the library, which I've learned and I participated in, is I happen to be a big film fan as well. And as a result of that, Pam has every year an Academy Awards program in the French room that is just wonderful by a local guy. Matter of fact, I happen to have been his realtor as well, Joe. And he does this wonderful program. He is a
Between you and Dory, you're on the town, but that's okay.
And I was Dory's realtor as well, I know. And it's just an amazing program. And besides that, if you take a look at the programs that Pat runs at the in the French, is it called the French?
Wales French Room.
The Wales French Room.
He was the first librarian.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It's amazing where people from the area who have had worldwide experiences, travel to different countries, come in with slide presentations. It's just an amazing opportunity to have an amazing amount of value to these wonderful programs that people offer, all volunteering.
Okay. I'm going to have to be kind to our sponsors. I'm going to have to go to our sponsors and do as I say, to pay the bills. And then I'll be right back. Lori, you're going to be the one that I'm going to come back to, so stay tuned. Support our Library Associations, Inc., SOLA. They're located at the library. Their address is 84 Park Street, Stoughton, Massachusetts. And you can reach them by email at solastoughton@gmail.com or by phone, 781-341-0856. Kids Day 2014, Wet, Wild, and Wonderful, to be held on June 28th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Stoughton High School. Carnival and fireworks on July 3rd, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. at Stoughton High School. And there will be at the parade on July 4th, and the parade route, it will be announced. You can reach the Stoughton Community Events either by email at stoughtoncommunityevents.org or by phone at 781-436-0323 for more information. The Little Theater of Stoughton presents Legally Blonde, the musical. It'll be held June 12th to the 15th of this year at Stetson Hall. Since my eyes are failing, I can't read the rest, but in any event, I'll say it is going to be on Thursday, June 12th at 7:30 p.m., Friday, June 13th at 8 p.m., and Sunday, June 19th, there's a show at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. If you want to purchase tickets, that you're going to have to read online because it's too small for my eyes to see. But nonetheless, if you want more information on it, regardless of my not being able to see it, I believe the number there is 339-235-8683. Thank you, David. You've been very helpful. The crew would like to thank Maxie's Delicatessen.
Maxie's.
And they're located at 117 Sharon Street in Stoughton. The phone number is 781-341-1662. They're so helpful and great to us here at Community Forum, and we thank them. American Cancer Society is looking for volunteers to drive cancer patients to and from treatment. So if you have a vehicle and have some time volunteering again, you can reach them at 1-800-ACS-6662, or you can check their website at www.cancer.org. Ilsa Marks Food Pantry and St. Anthony's Free Market is at 2 Park Avenue in Stoughton. And if you want more information on the program, please call Christine Gallagher at 781-341-0611 or 781-341-0549. Meals on Wheels, they too could use your transportation support to deliver meals to homebound persons here in Stoughton. And if you're interested in volunteering and assisting them in that, ask for Jessica at 781-344-8882, extension 2. Stoughton Penny Saver. Our business is advertising your business. And they're located at 27 Roseglen Street in Stoughton, and you can place your ad by calling them at 781-344-4833. Stoughton Farmers Market, be held at the First Parish Universalist Church, 790 Washington Street in Stoughton Center. The starts on June 14th through October 25th, rain or shine. That's this Saturday is when it begins, folks, so get prepared. It's from Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and it's run nonprofits and volunteer run, and it will occur rain or shine starting on June 14th. And some of the participants are Lane Gardens Farm, O'Brien's Bakery, Fresh Catch Seafood, much more, and there's live music. So come on out and support our Stoughton Farmers Market. My favorite program, Community Forum. Showtimes in Stoughton on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 6 p.m., Monday at 8 p.m., Tuesday at 5 p.m., on Comcast Channel 9, Verizon Channel 28. Comments and suggestions, if you have any on programming, would be you can contact us at communityforum1@yahoo.com. Community Forum also has showtimes in Eastern, Mondays at 9 p.m., Tuesdays at 8 a.m., Wednesdays at 3 p.m., Saturday at 10 a.m. on Comcast Channel 9 or Verizon Channel 22. And once again, if you have any comments or suggestions on programming, you can contact us at communityforum1@yahoo.com. Well, we're back, and as I promised, I would come back to you, so I am definitely smada.
Yes.
I figured by the end of the program I'd get it. And I want to come back to you. And any thoughts, additional things you want to say to our viewing audience?
Yes, I would. I would like to emphasize once again that we're right now servicing about 160 adult students in our program, but there are another 100 on the waiting list and many more that will come in over time. So we do need the volunteers. We need people to come and help tutor these adults. Once again, come to the library, call us, 781-232-9360. You can email us at stlva@ocln.org. We are always looking for volunteers and people to help. And the other thing I wanted to mention that Dory mentioned is that we do one-to-one tutoring, and that's our main basis. But in order to capture all the students that we have, we also run conversation classes. And right now we have, I believe, 6 conversation classes in Stoughton and the Sharon Library. And Dory runs a high-level conversation class on Wednesday nights. These classes are for any student who needs to practice their English and doesn't have an opportunity to do so if they live in a household where their native language is spoken or they work with people who speak their language. So this is a very open, non-threatening environment where they can come and practice their English.
Can volunteers contact you now?
Yes, anytime.
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 So the programs are ongoing throughout the year?
It is. Yes,
Okay.
we're open all year.
And I just have something to add to that, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Smadar doesn't, she's done a wonderful job, and the credit is all hers. This program has just been, it's grown by leaps and bounds since she's been running it. But a great thing happened was it 2 years ago?
With Nash.
Yeah, a fellow named Nash came in, and it was right before Christmas, and he sat down at her desk, and he said, "Do you remember me?" And she said yes, and he pulled out his checkbook and he wrote a check to the library for $100. And she came in and gave me the check, and I said, what's this all about? And she said, he came here.
He came to the library several years ago, and he didn't speak any English, and the staff called me down and said, "Smadar, we need help. There's a guy here who can't speak any English." And I said, okay. So I went down and I said, "Can I help you?" He really couldn't explain to me what he needed, but he had a packet of papers, and it looked like immigration papers, and that he had filled out, or someone helped him to fill out, and he needed to write a check for about $600. And he took the checkbook and just kind of moved it across the desk to me. And I said, you want me to write the check? He couldn't write in English. And he kind of nodded his head, and I thought, how can you trust a stranger to write a $600 check? I could write it to my account. He would never know.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote the check for him, and I said, I'd like to get you a tutor. I'd like to help you learn English. And he did. And we got him a tutor. He came to conversation classes. And then he came back 2 years later and sat across my desk, and he said, I moved to Maine. I speak English now. I started my own business. And he said, I would like to give you a donation for all the help that you've given me. And I went to Pat, and I said, the most amazing thing about this is that 6 years ago, he came to the library. He couldn't write a check. I had to write a check for him. And here he is 4 years later, writing a check as a donation to the library.
You know, and I am going to come back to you, Pat, but that's such a remarkable story and of one giving back, and that's how I was taught, in the sense of giving back. And I want to encourage all the persons who have taken advantage of programming at the library. I'm not going to tell you what amount you give, but you have to give something back. I'm going to say it for them. I mean, you should be there. There should not be a funding deficit in any of these programs at the library, because when I was there was a class of at least 80 people, and I'm sure, and you multiply, some programs have existed for 16 years, mm-hmm. That tells you the number of people who have benefited. So if some of you are watching the program today and have not yet written out your annual check in support of the library, I encourage you to do so. I'm not going to, browbeat you on it, but you did, I'm going to use the Dory approach and just simply ask you to support the library.
I would just like to mention one other thing. I just wanted to mention that there's a lot of cooperation between different departments within the town. And an example of that is that last Friday, one of our conversation groups went on a field trip to Boston. The teacher took them to the Quincy Adams station, taught them how to buy a Charlie ticket and go on the train, and then they did part of the Freedom Trail, went to the State House. And we couldn't have done that without the help of the Stoughton Council on Aging, who provided free transportation for all of our students to get to Boston and back.
Okay. Dory, I know you had a fly. Did you want to?
I do. I wanted to, we had on one of the community messages that you spoke of earlier was on the Community Events Day, which is going to be on June 28th, Saturday afternoon. Pat Basler had come up with this great idea that the library should try to break the book dominoes record.
Well, Karen Hall has to have some credit for that.
Okay, and Karen Hall has, Karen Hall, who is our Youth Commission and Council on Aging Director in Stoughton. So that is, in fact, going to happen. We are going to try to break the Guinness Book of World Records, and here's a flyer on it. First, I want to say we're going to do setup on Friday and Saturday during the day. We got a project manager who I actually found him at a party at Fred's house. But he's an engineer, and he agreed to. And I said, you should really call Pat Basler and talk to her, because this is right up your alley.
So this was another recruit to
exactly.
Can't say no to Dory.
Exactly right.
Well, the problem is Dory can't say no either. That's one of the problems.
Well, that's
that
why
I can't say no.
And that's why you communicate that to us so well.
This is going to be a great event, because the kids can watch. Kids and adults will be able to watch this book domino thing, and to watch 5,000 books go down like dominoes all across the whole library, up and down and around and up the shelves and down the stairs and whatever. Town Spa Pizza. Our friend Dick and Barbara Phillips from Town Spa Pizza are providing the pizza for free, 50 pizzas.
Okay.
But the library is going to have a raffle for $3 to draw your name out of a hat to push that first book down. So that's kind of fun. Somebody's going to get to push that first book and hope that So that's just a little aside that's going along with it.
And SMAC will be videotaping it.
And SMAC will be videotaping it as well. So, and I just wanted to remind people, you'll see some ads in the Penny Saver the next 2 weeks about SOLA's open house on July 1. So you can keep
We only have a few more moments. You have a choice of either talking about the funding for the library, talking about upcoming programs, because we're going to be going into wrap mode in a minute. So therefore,
I'd like to just do a quick update on the library construction project. And I'd like to start by saying 6 or 7 years ago, the library was trying to decide, do we build a new building? Do we move somewhere else? Parking is a real problem. How do we decide what to do next? And eventually, the town purchased the 2 houses next door. They were demolished, and we put in additional parking. We're now at the point where we are 5th on the waiting list. A couple of years ago, we were 30th. We have a $14 million budget, $7 million given by the state through a grant, and $7 million matching funds by the town. So years ago, when we were still trying to decide if we needed more parking, Fred Yatanis, who I didn't know from a hole in the wall, walked into the library one day, and he said, I know you have to get rid of those houses. We'll give you a free estimate on their value before the town buys them. And I said, well, what would the charge be? And he said, oh no, we're all in this together. You wrote me a note and said, we're all in this together. And I thought, who is this man? This was such a nice thing to do. So that's, what you're hearing today is all the great things really that happen because of the people in Stoughton. This is a great town. The people are amazing. And the generosity, money is one thing, but we just need your hours. We need your volunteer time to help us with literacy, to help us at the homework center. Those are the things that really, and even to help us stack the books for the Domino program. That's a fun community activity that brings people together for a shared experience. And that's really what a library is.
well, if I don't stop you there, when Roy Cohen comes back, he's going to throw me out as the host because I haven't thanked our guests for being here. So one, thank Fred Yatanis, who is a board member, Smadar Gico, who is the literacy director at the library, the infamous Dory Frankel, that is the president of SOLA, and the library director, Patricia Basler. Thank you all for making this such an informative program, and I wish you great luck. Encourage the viewing audience to be there and to support you.